So my name is Brian Wise. I am Vice President of Account Management with Faye Digital. I'm going to be walking through today just really the future of no-touch CRM. Just to kind of, I've been in the CRM space for 15 years. AI is not new. I think it's now just become generally available. And it's because back in 2001, 35 of Fortune 100 companies are actually using AI. A lot of the main companies that you know of that are leaders in customer experience, Navy Federal, Wells Fargo, Amazon, American Express, they've all been using AI for years, but it's been really heavy lifting, requires a lot of servers to run, but it's not a new concept within business. It's becoming a new concept in different industries and B2B. So it's not, I know it's kind of one of those topics that everyone's talking about right now, and it's sometimes scary. There's a little bit of, people are skeptical, people don't know where to start, and I think there's a lot of easy ways to start. A lot of that is enabling salespeople just to do more with less, and we're gonna walk through that today. We'll have plenty of time for questions. Bear with, I did leave enough time at the end. Bear with me, I might go a little bit slower today. I spent last night in Atlanta airport, so I just got here probably about an hour ago. So it's, yeah. That's speaking of transportation. So we're gonna go through today future of no-touch CRM, where AI replaces manual work. I think very important. A lot of companies we speak to, AI becomes scary when they think job replacement. AI really is at its best when we think job empowerment, job enablement, when it's helping sales, when it's helping marketing, helping operations just be more efficient, reduce some of that manual effort. I always make the joke, like I've been in the CRM space 15 years. 10 years ago, I was probably the worst CRM user in the history of CRM. Like I just hated going into it because it was always just, there was nothing in it for me. I was a salesperson, I was an individual contributor. I was just going in to update records, to update data just for the execs or for the higher ups, just so they could see where I was at for pipeline, but I got zero value out of it. We're gonna walk through today really where CRM becomes valuable, not just for the execs or the people upline, but it becomes valuable for your front-end users, your salespeople, your marketing people, your operations people, and where AI really plays a big role in that. So, speaking of which, so when I mentioned CRMs really aren't working and why adoption's been low, and this isn't everywhere, but it's a lot of places, and as CRM has kind of grown up, it's become less and less efficient. So 52% of salespeople say CRMs hurt their productivity. It's slowing them down in their day-to-day. 40% of CRM data is outdated and incomplete. This is a huge issue, especially with the more things that you plug into CRM, the more data that you have coming in. It's hard to keep track, hard to have that unique customer profile. It's hard to keep it up to date, and that really kills any possibility of doing anything with it. And then CRM adoption averages 26%, which is just abysmal. If this is where really your central source of truth is, so where you expect your salespeople to go, this is where your executive is going to get updates, and your only adoption's at 26%, how much is missing out of that, right? And then, as mentioned, and this has been, since moving from individual contributor into leadership roles, I mean, this has been a big thing for me is really CRM has always been built for leadership, not your front-end users. It's built for forecasting, dashboards, pipeline hygiene, and we've really been measuring it like, is our forecast accurate? Do we have dashboards that execs can see where we're at for pipeline, for activities? Are they updating the records? How many contacts have they added? What's their hygiene look like? But it hasn't been about, hey, how is this gonna help my salespeople sell more, do more, keep up to date with their accounts, be able to easily manage their accounts, reduce a lot of the manual tasks, and that's why we see adoption is low, because it really hasn't been built for front-end salespeople. And we're relying on human memory for machine systems, and this is, especially with people that are in the field, especially, it's gotten a lot worse since COVID. I mean, I probably speak for everyone in this room where your calendar is probably a mess, right? And you have calls after call after call after call. There's no time to update the CRM with those call notes, or you have to go back at the end of the day, and now you're relying on your memory, or you're too busy and you go back the end of the week. Maybe you're updating the notes with the calls, or you're in the field and you've been traveling for 10 days like I have, and you aren't updating anything until you get back, or you're trying to update stuff on flights, and it just becomes a lot. So we're really relying on, and this is a huge thing, because salespeople are having a ton of conversations. Now, the conversations aren't necessarily always making it into a CRM. There's a lot of action items or next steps that come out of those conversations, but are we really getting everything we can out of those conversations and maximizing on the output of what happens in those, because we're relying on having to go back the end of the week for follow-up, for next steps, and for logging them. So actually, this was actually a wild stat for me. I didn't realize it was this bad. But 73% of sales conversations are never logged. And the age-old saying is, if it's not in CRM, it didn't happen. But that really, I mean, we're saying 73% of what we do never happened, which is obviously we know is not the case. So this is right now getting into where AI becomes a huge benefit to organizations. Is what if your CRM auto-populated itself accurately, right? No more post-call notes, no manual tagging, no guessing what happened in meetings. And what if you were able to just kind of remove that need to have to go in after the fact, but really, I mean, in real time, you're able to log those conversations, you're able to get sentiment analysis, you're able to look at real-time transcription. I can tell you, we use this obviously at Faye. Well, we're doing real-time transcription, and one of our conversations last week, the first 10 minutes was me, one of our customers, and someone else talking about facial hair and how my wife, but it got into building out a rapport, or how, and it's that, but it gets down to that level of degree where it can break stuff up and talk about, hey, they opened up the conversation. The first 5 minutes we're talking about facial hair and how Brian's wife didn't want him having a mustache for his wedding last year. And then Adil, who's one of our customers, he's getting married and his wife is pushing back on his facial hair. It was funny to read, but it shows the level that this actually gets down into the weeds and is really picking up your actual transcription, and talks about how the first 5 minutes were really meant to build rapport and have a conversation. But it also looks into intent and sentiment detection. We're having calls. It's easy to do so in a room. But now with salespeople having more and more calls, a lot of stuff moving to Zoom, not people getting out to see as many customers or prospects or accounts all the time. A lot of stuff happens over to Zoom, and it's very difficult to read a room unless you have everyone's video on. Even when you have someone's video on, it's still really hard to read a room because most of the time the speaker is the one that's going to be up on video. So unless you're in that room, it's very difficult to read intent and sentiment detection. Now, there's some platforms, including things we use, that do a really good job of this, and being able to measure intent, being able to measure, hey, were they a detractor or were they favorable about what we were talking to? How were their reactions? Things that I never even thought were possible now is possible. The other thing is smart tagging. One of the things that comes up a lot is, and we've actually used this past in other organizations I've used, where I want to look across my entire sales team. And one example was we thought we were losing deals to another CRM. So, and we had our whole product marketing, product management, our regular marketing team, go-to-market team, really designing strategies, go-to-market strategies to go after this one CRM. Now with smart tagging, we were able to realize we were focused on the wrong competitor. We were losing deals because looking across now at a macro level and across all the conversations that are happening for every sales folk, for all the sales folks, for anyone in account management, anyone in customer success support, we were able to see that we were actually focused on the wrong competitor, and we shifted our focus, and that led to higher retention. That led to more wins against that specific competitor, more net new wins. And that's only possible with doing something like having smart tagging that can not only look at conversations down to a micro level, an individual level, and break those down for really kind of getting into the weeds, but it's important to be able to look across all of your conversations that are happening in the field or happening across sales, customer success, operations, account management, and identifying and spotting trends, especially with support. I mean, how important is this to our accounts? Is it really that important that we're not doing X, Y, Z? A lot of times it's not. Sometimes we're missing, and this is actually much more important. We need our focus. That's where a lot of this stuff comes in conversations, where now not only does this stuff help sales folks kind of shift their narrative, but it helps others in the organization around product marketing, around operations, around support. It just gets everyone in line, so we're all speaking the same thing and all talking about the stuff that's important to our customers. So now modern CRMs are becoming now event-driven. What we mean by event-driven is it's really focused on conversations. And these are all, like, we have a lot of conversations internal, if they're related to specific opportunities or specific accounts, but there's so many external conversations happening now. And with the rise of, like, especially coming out of COVID, just there's more meetings in a day, more conversations that are happening that we're now able to track or figure out ways to use the information from those conversations to drive next steps. Signals, this is one of the stats, and this is not the transportation industry, but in the mortgage industry, 174 days a person researches a mortgage before ever talking to a broker. There's so many different signals that happen in those 174 days that banks were just missing out on, that now they can use, so when someone comes to them, they have all of this different information that they're able to action on. That's happening across all industries now. There's so many different signals. Our digital footprint is huge. Sometimes, I don't know if our phones listen to us, but sometimes, like, you'll be talking about something, and then I'm sure you go on Facebook and you'll see an ad for that same thing, and everyone, I do it probably 5 times a week, and everyone's like, wow, I was just talking about this. Our digital footprint and the things that we look for and the things that we're clicking on is enormous, and there's more and more data that's coming in that you can work off those signals and add those into the CRM. So now we're just becoming much more intelligent, so we can have intelligent conversations with our customers, with our prospects, with our accounts when we do have their audience. And then being able to action on them. So when I mentioned back at the beginning, like, AI is not new. AI used to be called, I used to sell Epiphany, if I don't know if any of you are familiar with it, but back in the day, like in the late 90s and then 2001, a lot of people were using, it was something called rail point technology, and AI used to be called NBA. It was next best action. And AI, all the data would bring everything together. It would look at profile, then it would look at business rules, then it would look at propensity modeling. How likely are you to respond to this? Or how likely are you to accept this offer? And it was all called next best action, but it was singular, and those actions were happening less frequently. That now AI, and we get into all the different tools, all the different signals, you need to be able to, wherever you're interacting with that person or wherever your brand is interacting with that person, being able to action on all the different data, all the different signals with how fast everything's moving. And now it's become, those next best actions are a set of actions that are happening throughout the course of a customer life cycle. So, and this is, I just want to make sure I didn't miss one. No, we're good. All right, so salespeople, and I say this, I know there is good updates that do need to happen, but when it comes to, like, what I would call the minutia, knowing I'm in leadership and I expect my sales folks to update the CRM, but it's really the more that we can update it for them, and the more that we can put in the stuff that would take them away from the admin work on a given basis, the more they in front of customers, the more they're focused on driving output, driving pipeline, driving revenue, and having good conversations with accounts. So 270 hours per year per rep are spent on admin work within CRM. And just to put that into perspective, right, and why is it okay that salespeople are never going to have to update CRM again? It's a huge cost burden to any company, to any organization. And when we look at the numbers, right, we look at 270 hours wasted per year. You break that down to 52 times 40, right? 2,080 working hours per year. And I broke down, and I know this is different probably for everyone in the room, but when you look at the average annual salary per transportation sales, right around the average was 76,681, which breaks down to 3687 an hour, which breaks down to just less than $10,000 per salesperson per year is wasted on going back and updating CRM, putting in notes, any of the admin work. And for a 50-person or for a 50-person sales organization, I mean, you're talking about $500,000 a year is wasted on them just updating notes, your sales folks updating notes, doing admin work within CRM that now AI is enabling or empowering organizations to replace all of this manual labor. And what does that look like, right? From record keeping to real intelligence, adoption grows with CRM the more when it's not just about value in, it's about value out. If you give your folks or your salespeople or your account managers, your CSMs, a CRM that is giving them value that they want to open. I mean, I start every day in my CRM. It's the same thing with our people on our team. It's because we're getting intelligence out. It's telling us, it's guiding our day. It's telling us what our tasks are. It's telling us where we should be focused. And where there's actual value going into it, where it's now not just a homework assignment every time you need to go in and you have to put data in. It's actually giving us insights into how to manage day, how to hit our numbers, and how to just remove some of this manual stuff that we're used to. Some of the outcomes, right? Predicting churn, this is a big one. There's so many different risk factors going back to like sentiment analysis or with conversations, were they engaged, were they not engaged? A lot of that, I think the number one indicator of churn in any organization is lack of engagement. It's not the person that's logging 50 support tickets a week. It's the person that's logging 0 support tickets over the course of a year, or they're not engaged with your company, they're not engaged with your sales folks, they're not engaged with your account managers. If there's 0 engagement, you can expect that person's gonna churn. That's a huge indicator. So predicting churn, getting ahead of that, not just at time of renewal or not at time of renegotiating maybe contracts, or really understanding, because this going back to what I said about the mortgages and the 174 days, if you think people are churning or not renewing with anything that you sell as an organization, it's not happening 30 days before the renewal or when you reach out to them. They're researching other competitors, or they're researching other products much earlier than that, probably at least 6 months before. So being able to understand those different risk factors and indicators that are going to allow you to predict churn is key. And this is one of the major benefits of what AI is doing. Also spotting upsells. I think especially organizations that are moving quick, that are releasing new products, that maybe have an aggressive M&A strategy, is how do you go and you release the new products, how do you go and identify quickly what that ICP looks like, or what's your ideal customer profile that would be a good fit? It's not everyone, but what's a good fit for a specific product or a specific solution that now you're offering, and how do you go and really quickly create a dynamic list or identify those customers that would be a good fit for either for an upgrade or for an upsell or for a new product, and then empower your sales folks with those lists of accounts that you can now go and build kind of a quick go-to-market strategy around, work with marketing, focus on those accounts. So you're not just focused on everyone, you're just focusing on the ones that are most likely to purchase that product or cross-sell or upsell product that you're positioning. And then being able to coach reps better. I would say shifting from, we talk about this a lot of admin work for sales folks to go in and update CRM, but in a lot of times if they're having a lot of conversations, if they're in the field, they're having a lot of meetings, being able to go back and update all that stuff usually happens at the end of the week. Now, from a leadership standpoint, going in and looking at pipeline, looking at conversations, reviewing conversations, looking for coaching, that's the stuff that usually gets put off. That's the stuff that gets put off to the end of the week, or you go through and you try to do things. And I'm speaking candidly, even for myself, like that's stuff that you would love to be able to do more. Now with AI, you can use AI, you can have conversational intelligence, and you can let AI identify those areas where people need some coaching. Did they talk for too long during the meeting? Where we know that the best conversations that we have are those ones that convert from prospects to opportunities, to revenue, That's going to happen when salespeople speak less than 40% of the time. So now if I have a salesperson that's speaking 60, 70% of the time, or is maybe too reliant on demo or too reliant on talking about us and not learning about the customer or the prospect, I can easily, quickly go through and identifying all conversations at a macro level. I can let AI guide me to, hey, I need to focus more on working with this particular rep on being better at discovery, answering more questions, not just relying on demo. That's what we mean when we say about coach reps better. Otherwise, before we'd go in, I'd listen to a Zoom recording. I would try to identify areas, but it was always done at a micro level, which becomes impossible in sales leadership. Like, it's just, you cannot do it. Use AI to now be able to identify those trends and find which reps are performing the highest and what are they doing differently that we need to now focus on driving the same behavior and the same type of expectations across the rest of the sales suite. So, and just, this is one company, right? When we talk through when they working with them and them really kind of getting down and honing in on an AI strategy, is they saw a 34% increase in CRM data completeness. When we talk about CRM data completeness, it's not just about the account, what's their name, what's their address, what are some contacts in there, what are some of the opportunities. As mentioned, there are signals everywhere. Like, what are they interested in? What are they looking at? What's their sentiment analysis? What are their churn or risk indicators? Having all that complete record is critical now, and it's possible, especially with AI and not having to rely on manual data entry. 21% increase in faster sales cycles. I'll just give you an example of myself. So I was prior to Faye, I was with Sugar CRM, also another sponsor here. With Faye was a top partner there, and I was leading customer success and account management over at. I was basically brought in to build out that team, and we were seeing that, and it was highly transactional, and we were doing a lot of transactions on an annual basis, and we were getting stuck, and our average sales cycle was 33 days. And this is within account management. This is anywhere from $100 up to a couple $100,000, right? Our average order value is right around $7,500. Now, we wanted to figure out how do we, if we're going to remain highly transactional and we want to grow revenue, we need to be able to do more transactions and not get stuck. So using AI, what we did is we identified where the bottleneck was. The bottleneck was anywhere that one of our opportunities had a request for non-standard finance terms. We just sit on our CFO's desk. And we did not know this. I mean, it was just, I kind of had an idea, but data trumps everything. And being able to go back to a CFO, anytime someone requested quarterly billing, or they requested net 90 instead of net 60, or they requested to have deferred payments or split up the payments, those things would just sit there. And there were a lot of requests, right? So what we did is, using AI and using that data, we were able to go and have a conversation with our CFO and put together some blanket terms that he approved up front, and then we would know. So now that took our average sales cycle down from 33 days down to 17 days. And as a result, we were able to focus. We saw our opportunities and our conversions and transactions on an annual basis go up, right around the same percentage. So that's just one example. When I talk about faster sales cycles, there are bottlenecks in every sales cycle. Using AI to identify those, to get around them, to auto-approve certain tasks, that helps. And the more that we can get through a sales cycle, the more that we can then, revenue obviously follows, but then you can go focus on other opportunities and closing more deals. And then more upsells found. I think especially there is just such, there's consolidation across all industries. And with M&A and there's really a lot of times what would happen and what has been happening and still happening today is companies will have a great M&A strategy and they'll bring in solutions, but then it just, they kind of sit in silos. It's still that company is selling what they're good at and this company is selling what they're good at. I was at Oracle. I mean, that's literally when they have great M&A and they would acquire all these different companies. And I was there when they had a huge push within customer experience, but then it never got folded into the larger CX story. And we would, the people selling Service Cloud would still sell Service Cloud. People selling Marketing Cloud would still sell Marketing Cloud. Really being able to kind of bring that stuff in, and if you are someone that is releasing new products, if you are adding functionality or capabilities, if you just had a new release that you're a new edition of something that you sell, or a new package that you sell that is a little bit more but offers customers more value, being able to go and identify those customers quickly using AI that are a good fit. I mean, that stuff's happening before with product marketing or product management now, prior to release, right? Using AI to find, what are our customers asking for? What are they looking for? We have companies that use AI to guide their entire M&A strategy, right? So before we acquire this company, are they gonna actually, within our customer base, are they gonna be a good fit? And they're gonna be upsells, cross-sells? So AI has been huge with upsells, and as someone that has been focused on account management for the last 6 years, and I transitioned from new logo, AI has been huge for me, finding upsells and cross-sells. It still needs context though, right? So this isn't the end all be all, and you're not just gonna use AI and it's gonna do all the work for you, right? You still need to layer onto workflows. As mentioned earlier, like the approval process and the workflows that went into that, layering that on, when it gets to our CFO, he wasn't working within CRM, but like layering onto that workflow, and when it leaves CRM, or tying it into our internal operations, and finding ways to reduce the steps needed to do day-to-day tasks, and pulling that information in. The best customer experience organizations in the world also have the best employee experience. Like Southwest Airlines, Navy Federal, if you look at the Forrester CX Index score, every year, the companies that have the best employee experience and have the best internal operations are also going to be the top performers on the customer experience index. Amplifying humans is second. When I mentioned the scary thing about AI, everyone thinks robots are going to come in and start selling. It's not going to happen. Robots will replace maybe some things on an assembly line, or there will be opportunities, but it's not really about that. Really, where the companies or the organizations that are thriving using AI are focused on employee empowerment and employee enablement, not employee replacement. And that's really what we're talking about when we say it still needs context. We're not telling AI to go and sell this deal. We're telling AI to go tell our salesperson how to sell this deal. It's a big difference. And customers can tell. I mean, when you're talking to someone, it gets difficult now. When you talk to someone, I'm like, this isn't a real person. It's gotten really good, but AI will never replace empathy. Will never replace trust. I think the stat is 86% of B2B buyers do not trust salespeople, and they're not going to trust. That's just with the unknowns that go into AI. That trust is only going to continue. Distrust is only going to continue to get higher unless organizations are empowering their sales folks with data, with signals, with next best actions, with different steps to take in a sales cycle that's going to build trust and maximize on any interaction they're having with their customers or prospects. So where do you start, right? As mentioned, I don't think anyone's calendars have gotten any less busy over the last 4 or 5 years. So let's figure out ways to maximize on those conversations. So starting with the conversation, everyone's having conversations. We want our salespeople to have more and more conversations. So how do we maximize on those? So plug into calls. Plenty of solutions out there. We use Spiky. It plugs into calls, and I'm sure some of you, probably everyone's probably using some type of call recording software to transcribe, to look at sentiment analysis. There's some that are really good that can get into different data points, but then all those transcriptions or those call recordings can be tied directly into your meetings module within CRM. That can come right over, and then you can start to guide folks on that. Build signal library, as mentioned earlier, at a macro level, an organization is having so many conversations, and it's impossible to go and look at those individual conversations one by one. So what are the trends? What are our customers talking about? What are they asking for when they call into support? Like the old way of doing things was, oh, log an enhancement request to a CRM vendor. I mean, now let's just let the conversations guide those enhancement requests and guide that product roadmap and tell organizations where they should be focused, because this is not what we're talking about. This is actually what our customers are talking about. So, and then automate CRM updates. This is huge. I mean, I think I speak for probably Jack and Jasmine. Having the ability to bring that information over and log a meeting in near real time and bring that whole transcript over cuts down on, I mean, just even adding the notes, it cuts down on so much back and forth, so many internal emails. Especially if you have someone that might come in, or you're onboarding someone, or we all have churn, and you bring a new salesperson on. I mean, if that information or those past meetings or calls was living in that person's head, or some of the notes got pulled over, it's impossible. You're basically starting it fresh every time you bring a new salesperson or account manager in to talk with those customers. Having those conversations in the meetings record or in the calls record within CRM that they can go back and look at has been huge. And then when we talk about no touch is becoming the norm, no touch really, that's someone doesn't need to go in and manually update the record. As I mentioned, like with the call recording, having it synced, right? So that call recording, you don't have to go in and copy and paste the transcript or any of that to go against a meeting record or against a call record. Have that synced so it's automatically updating it for you. And it's as easy as it is to go and copy and paste. It's still, someone needs to go in, the old way of doing things, someone still needs to go in and copy paste, update the record, and things might get better, but it's not going to solve the whole piece of the puzzle. So now really kind of get into that no touch and being able to sync those different conversations and pull them right in without a salesperson having to do anything is huge. So AI native CRM tools. CRM is really becoming kind of that single, so it used to be ERP and where the invoicing lived or where the account records lived, but really CRM should be at the forefront of any organization, and where everyone is kind of working on managing the customer. So when AI is not, we don't hear a lot about AI plugging into ERP, plugging into different solutions. It's mostly AI is plugging into CRM, or where that single source of truth is for your customers or prospects. DL health scoring. This is something that is, I kind of call this like the no sandbagging AI, which I mean, I'm traditionally a sandbagger, right? When we rolled this out of my last organization, I'm like, this is gonna kind of kill me, right? So, but being able to look at past history of the deals that converted, the deals that converted from lead, converted to opportunity, and then converted over to revenue, and what were the different data points or the different activities that went into that. I remember in my last company, we rolled out something called Sugar Predict, where we talked about, we had lead likelihood conversion, where we could provide a prediction on how likely this lead is going to convert, whether it's less likely, least likely, neutral, more likely, most likely. Anything neutral and below, I told my team, neutral, send back to the BDRs. They need to do some more qualification. Less likely, least likely, get it out of your pipeline. They're not going to convert. We should only be focused on the ones most likely to convert. We had a customer come to us and say, hey, your predict, this is broken. Your solution's broken because this large deal just closed for one of our account managers that had a score of least likely with using Sugar Predict. So we got on a call, we looked through it. That deal had zero activity. They didn't put anything into the opportunity notes. They didn't put any of the calls. They didn't put any next steps. They just had the opportunity. And then that was basically, we sat with them and we said, no, it's not broken. The process is broken, right? Your salesperson, the data doesn't lie. Your salesperson didn't put in any data. There were no next steps. And then they could go back and coach them. Hey, we need to put this information in because now it's going to help us with forecasting. The data is never going to lie, so being able to use that and look at deal health scoring helps a ton when it comes to qualification, especially up front, and that reduces wasted time spent on deals or reduces kind of happy years that can come across in a lot of different ways. So really just focusing on AI to look at the deals that are most likely and then applying that to your leads as well. And then automated follow-ups. Goes going back to the beginning when I talked about like if your salespeople are in the field, they're meeting with customers, if they're road warriors, they're going to meet with 10 prospects or 10 customers on a given day. And not only is it difficult at that end of the day, the last thing anyone wants to do is open their laptop and put in information. But furthermore, I mean, the next thing that no one wants to do is they don't want to go and do their follow-ups. Hey, great meeting with you. These are the things that we discussed. That stuff gets pushed out, and it drives down the value of that actual interaction. It could have been a great meeting, but if you're not doing the follow-up and you're not updating the records within CRM, then that meeting's wasted. And a lot of times that will delay the meeting, or you might have to go back and have another conversation, and it goes into wasted time. So besides using AI for data entry and to capturing all that data, I think this is one of the second biggest thing is really automating some of those follow-ups based on those conversations. So now talking about like logistics and transportation, right? Where some of the things that we hear from the industry is this high call volume, high churn risk, where a lot of times companies, especially within logistics or freight, they'll go out and they're just really looking for the best quote and it's hard to keep customers, turn prospects into customers, transactional customers into accounts and ways to grow those accounts. And there's highly complex quoting workflows, right? Looking at space, looking at cost of fuel, looking at cost of transport, anything that goes in with like tariffs or with customs. Being able to kind of use AI to plug into that workflow. So now your sales folks they're pricing deals correctly, or they're finding what price do I need to be at that's going to win me this? What other factors do I need to take into account? And really being able to tie in and use AI to reduce some of those steps, but also become much more intelligent. Using some of those logistics has some of the most complex quoting workflows of any industry that we work with. Using AI tie into CRM to reduce kind of some of the complexity that goes into them is huge. Yeah, and this is just to close it out. And we'll have a few minutes for questions. Really, a CRM should work for you. It should not be, if your CRM right now is designed for management or for leadership, and you are a salesperson or your sales folks go into the CRM and they're not getting value out of it, you can expect adoption's going to be low. And when adoption's low, you're not going to be getting all the data. Leadership's not going to be getting an accurate view into the pipeline, into the revenue, into the accounts. And unless you design a CRM that is enabling your people that are in the field, whether it's sales, operations, customer success, account management, marketing, anyone that's really touching a customer should be in the CRM. If you're not empowering them and enabling them, then adoption is going to be low, and it's really it's going to keep getting worse and worse. So really, your CRM should be your best employee, but it also should be enabling your employees to get value out of it. So now we have 6.5 minutes for questions, if anyone has any. Yeah, so I mean, there is, I would say, like when we talk about conversational intelligence, you have the Zooms of the world, you have Teams, and those can do their own thing, but it's mostly for when you're going to be updating meetings or conversations, those are plugins, right? And that's bringing in data from different areas that would match and direct sync to the meeting record or to the call record, depending on how you set it up. Everyone uses Outlook or Gmail, having that Outlook sync, where now you can auto-archive emails, and you can set up rules around that where it's only auto-archiving external emails, or it can be manual, where maybe you don't want every email to be archived against the record. Within CRM, you just want to auto-archive customer records, or it can get to a point where now you have that plugin, because you want when I say you want to tie in CRM into other solutions, it should be working where people work. Everyone works out of their inbox or out of Outlook or Gmail. Like you shouldn't have to, if someone emails you from an organization that you're working with, and it shouldn't require that person to leave Outlook and go in and then update that contact record. You can do that directly within sidebar, within Outlook, and plug that into a CRM where you can just, if it recognizes CRM smart enough to basically feed a recommendation to say, hey, we recognize this email alias, but we recognize that this contact does not exist in the CRM today. Do you want to create that contact today? It's just one click button directly from an Outlook. So when I say CRM adoption, it's not just about going in and making sure that a customer or your sales folks are staying within CRM 90, 95, 99% of the day. It's about working where they like to work and feeding and having that data sync between CRM and other solutions, whether it's Zoom or whether it's Teams or whether it's Outlook or Gmail, and just making sure that all that stuff gets updated. Because if you have to leave a system to go in and update it, or you have to leave CRM to go into another system, that's when data quality and data hygiene starts to falter. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Well, my question is similar. Again, functionality improvements sound wonderful, but honestly, I don't get how I'm going to do it. I have Monday.com as my CRM. It's also a great project management tool. So specifically, do I have to switch to a whole CRM platform? Can this happen with any existing platform? Just kind of, can you give some specifics?
Yeah, so, my wife uses Monday. I think my wife uses everything that I don't sell, right? But I will say Monday is a great platform when it comes to workflows, project management, designing that. Monday, and they have, I think, 80,000 customers. The CRM functionality within Monday was released as basically contact management or smaller functionality, where I would recommend, if you are getting into true CRM functionality, continue to use Monday for what it's good at, but you can plug into other CRMs like if you want like a true kind of CRM. Their CRM functionality is light compared to where they're at from a project management piece.
Yeah, and we knew that because we were intensively using the CRM in this connected
Yep.
role. So, but specifically, what platforms do you recommend that have all this great AI functionality?
I come from Sugar. Sugar does a really good job of relational data and would probably require more questions. And we're a reseller of Sugar, but also HubSpot, Salesforce, others, which they'll probably be better at talking some of that stuff than I will. But it depends on your use case. If you have a lot of different relational data points, meaning an account could have all these different data points under it, probably a Sugar. If you are using stuff that you need something to be more UI friendly, or something that doesn't need a tremendous amount of reporting, or like relational database, so tying all these different data fields or data records or custom data objects, what we would call your non-traditional CRM out-of-the-box data records, then probably like a HubSpot. If you have all these other solutions that need to plug into different solutions, and you have a team that can manage it, or you maybe have others at the organization that want to do more complex stuff or build something out, that's probably maybe get into like something like a Salesforce. But I think probably if they have these conversations all the time, I would say I'm giving you the answer just for the fact of giving the answer, but there's so many questions that would go in. But Monday is good at what Monday does on the project management piece and the workflows. A lot of CRMs, and we see a lot of customers actually moving. HubSpot's having a ton of momentum right now with moving into the Monday customer base and connecting with Monday. And that's, the stuff my wife's looking at today, because they outgrew the CRM functionality available with Monday.
Great patient here. Well done.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Great presentation. You nailed. I'm in the middle of a HubSpot implementation, and all the things you say is true about adoption and all. Even in a world where HubSpot's got a lot of it's going this direction. It's plugging in AI. It's got built-in AI. I think the folks can kind of see the vision, but we're still in this world of how CRM gets used today, which is to still get the data in there that you have to do to run your business. So I want to thank you for the presentation.
with all the plugins, like you're saying, all the different pieces that are trying to take a bite of AI and to get it all to work together to provide the insights that you talked about here, and some of the automation, we're not there yet. Like, the basic quoting you talk about, we still have to rely on our TMS, which means it's still got to talk to the CRM. I mean, like HubSpot quoting is never going to do the kind of quoting we do, so great point.
We're in the middle of a HubSpot migration as well. And I had a call Friday to go through quoting.
Yeah.
So we can probably, if you want to have a conversation, we can probably talk through that. Because you're right. I mean, you do get your baseline quoting within. We knew going in that HubSpot wasn't going to be our CPQ solution. So now we're looking at solutions that plug into HubSpot to do the quoting. But we went through our own migration, which Jasmine and Jack can talk about as well, about how to get as much possible. And when I mentioned HubSpot is like very user friendly and being able to kind of tie in data, it's very easy from a reporting standpoint. Sugar is great at reporting, but I came from Sugar, and if you knew how many times I tried to build a report and hit my head off the wall because it would say data not available, I've had a much easier time doing that with HubSpot. But we're probably going through a lot of the same challenges that you are right now that we're happy to speak to. Any other questions? And I'll be around the rest of the day if anyone wants to have a conversation. Same thing with Jasmine and Jack.